Thanks for joining me. Glad you could make it to this class. And this is just an overall general yoga practice, similar to what I would teach, at, say, in my studio. Includes some flow poses, sequencing sun salutations, a variety of those. Overall, pretty easy class, nothing too difficult, challenging. Certainly, a lot of the poses, exercises, stretches, etc., that we do in some of the other more specific classes, say for shoulders, spine, hips, quads, etc. So nothing too challenging, nothing too different than what we've done together in some of our other classes. Having a block would be helpful for some of the later poses. And we're going to start this class in a seated pose. So maybe if you have that nice thick folded blanket or a firm cushion to sit on, if you like to have that little support, that would come in handy. But otherwise, um, nothing much else. Pretty, again, overall basic yoga class that you would do at a studio or another teacher, another video on YouTube, that sort of thing. So find your way, if you can, sit in a cross-leg position, either leg in front. And if that feels uncomfortable right now, you could, have the legs out straight in front of you. I'm going to take just a few moments to kind of settle in here. You can close the eyes or keep them open. We're going to start to take a few just really easy, slow breaths. Take the inhale through the nose and then the exhale also through the nose. Try to keep the lips sealed. Occasionally, I'll instruct you to open the mouth and exhale, but for the most part, in a yoga practice, especially in a flowing class where we connect poses to the breath, it just makes for a more efficient breath to keep the lips sealed and to find that breath, that steady breath in and out through the nose. Ideally, you want to try to match the length of the inhale to the length of the exhale. So maybe inhaling up for a count of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then exhaling the same way for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take a couple more breaths like that on your own. Trying, if you're able, to go 5 count. If not, 4 count is fine. If you can, extend it out to a 6 count. So the deeper you can breathe in, the more breath you can take in, and the deeper the exhale can be. And you keep, again, that nice steady flow pattern of breath. And that just helps keep you focused. It helps you stay in the practice longer. And it helps you, for the most part, feel a little less tired, out of breath as the class progresses in. Take one more breath like that. Sit up a little taller, inhale, and then exhale. Ground a little more. I feel a little more solid, steady in your seat. From here, you're going to open the eyes if they're closed. You're going to reach the arms overhead. Let's interlace the fingers, reach the palms up to the sky. Try to lift up a little taller. Try, if you're able, to bring the arms back in line with the ears. And then from here, we're going to bend over to your right. And as you do that, begin to turn the right side of the rib cage a little to the left. Make sure both hips stay grounded. One or the other likes to hike up, be dominant, be out of balance, but try to balance them out. One more breath. All right, sit up tall, lift up. And then let's take that bend over to the left now and begin to gently turn left side of the chest a little to the right. Breathing deeply as we expand and open into the side body. One more breath. All right, lift up, release the interlace of the fingers, and then we're just going to take a little twist, spin over to the right, drop the left hand to the right knee or thigh, and then the right hand comes right kind of in line with the low back, kind of push into the fingertips, and use that to lengthen up from the spine. Watch the degree of the twist. This is the first twist. We're still warming up the whole body, the spine, so maybe not take it too deep just yet. Take one more breath here, and then slowly turn to center. Just keep turning till you take the seated, easy seated twist, opening twist to the left, lengthening up on the inhale. Perhaps deepening the twist just a fraction of an inch on the exhale, but not if it feels tight or tense or resistant in the low back. One more breath. All right, you're going to turn to center. You're going to tent the fingertips onto the shoulders here. And we're going to start to circle the arms around to the front to kind of open up the shoulders, chest, upper back. Maybe the elbows tap as they come forward, or maybe they don't. Just kind of try to make the circles a little bigger if you can, get a little more opening going there. And then we're going to circle the other way, go back. And again, maybe those inner elbows just gently tap as they come forward. Don't worry if they don't, if your shoulders are a little tight. Don't worry about it. One more. All right, from here, uncross the legs, and you're going to come onto all fours, hands and knees into tabletop position. Set this up for cat-cow, but we're going to add in with the cat-cow, with the articulation of the spine, the rounding, and the opening, we're going to add in a little lower body movement so we get everything warmed up at the same time. So take a moment here, check your alignment, hand-shoulder distance, spread the fingers, shift forward so that the shoulders are right over the wrist and the hips are right over the knees. All right, now you're going to bring the right knee to the nose as you round in for cat. And then you're going to extend that right leg long, keep the toes hovering as you lift forward, open the heart into cow pose. We're going to keep going that way. Inhale, knee to nose. Exhale, straighten the leg back, open the chest forward, and keep going this way. A few more rounds. So as you extend that right leg back, you don't have to lift it high. In fact, I would advise keeping it a little lower down to the ground, not lifting it too high. So that way it helps us keep the left side steady and stable. So we're just isolating this movement in the right side. We take one more on the side, round in, knee to nose, find cat. Extend the leg back, step back onto all fours, and then let's move into side two. Bring the left knee to the nose, round the spine, tuck the chin, straighten the leg back, open the chest forward. And again, find that pattern here. I'm going a little slower. So extending the leg back starts to engage the glute and the hamstring as well. Again, is that articulation, warming up of the spine here. We have one more of those, round and extend, and then come back again onto all fours. You're going to lift the right knee up and you're going to start to circle that knee and hip around to the right. Making these circles, getting a little bit more into the outer hips, inner thighs now. And then change the direction of the circles. Circle inward towards the left. One more breath. All right, now you're going to straighten that right leg all the way out to the side. So it's right in line with the hip. You're going to ground the foot, in particular the outer edge of that right foot. The hands are still shoulder distance, but maybe walk them out a little bit in front of you. And just for a few breaths, we're going to rock forward and back. Shift forward so the chest reaches towards the front of the mat. And then as you shift back, the sit bones come back towards the heel. So now we're opening up, finding movement and mobility in the front of the right hip and the hip flexor. The next time you sink back, you're going to hold here and you're going to sink back a little further. Maybe crawl the hands out a little further in front of you. Maybe drop the forehead down towards the mat into this variation of child's pose. Take just one more breath here. And then lift the chest, walk the hands in, and step the right knee back in to all fours to tabletop. And let's repeat that on the left side. So lift the left knee, open the hip, and then start those hip circles. So you're still keeping the spine kind of neutral here, looking down between the hands here. So again, just isolating that movement to the left knee and hip, and then circle opposite way. Just give it a good warm up. Whole hip joint. One more breath. All right, now you're going to step that left foot to the side. Kind of take a moment. Make sure, again, it's right in line with the hip. Ground through the foot. Activate that leg as you ground. And then as you look forward, we're just going to start that easy little rocking forward and back a few rounds. Should feel that opening up, stretching, engaging. That left hip flexor and into the inner thigh. One more, and the next time you rock back, you're going to stay there. Maybe sink back a little more. Maybe you crawl the hands out. Start to drop the chest, the forehead down towards the ground into this variation of child's pose. One more breath. Lift the head, walk the hands in. Come onto all fours, and from here, walk the hands in and lift up onto the shins. From here, kind of turn, walk on the shins so you're in the center of your mat. You're going to step the left foot to the mat, but you're going to turn the toes and the knee to face the back end of the mat. The knee is right over the ankle. Come back so the chest is facing forward. You're going to prop the left forearm on the left thigh and take the right arm over the ear and come into a side bend. So this is a variation here of gate pose with the knee bent. Usually the leg is straight, but for today, just for now, doing this little bent knee. And again, it gets a little more with the knee bent into that inner thigh and deep into the psoas muscle. If you have tight psoas muscle, this is a nice pose, a nice stretch for that area. One more breath. All right, now you're going to rise up, arms out from the shoulders. You're going to wiggle, slide that left leg to straight now. Ground the foot like we did a moment ago. Reach out to the right now, and you're going to drop the right hand to the mat or a block outside that right shin and take the left arm over the ear. And this is what we call modified side plank pose. Nice, really big opening on that left side. So kind of in your mind, as we hold here a couple more breaths, begin to trace an invisible line, diagonal line from the outer edge of the left foot all the way along the outer leg, outer hip, sides of the waist and rib, out through the shoulders to the fingertips. One more breath. All right, you're going to come all the way back up onto both shins, and we're going to do that on side two. Step the right foot to the mat, and then you kind of spin the knee to face the front of your mat right over the ankles. You turn back to center, drop the right forearm to the right thigh, and the left arm over the ears. You find that side bend in this gate pose variation to your right. Take two more breaths here. Breathing in, perhaps to that right inner thigh a little bit more. One more breath. All right, now rise, arms to a T, kind of slide, wiggle, move that right leg till it's straight. And again, we're really grounding. You want to ground more through that foot, especially the outer edge. And that's going to activate, wake up, and engage that whole right leg. From here, we bend over to the left, drop the left fingers to the mat or block, sweep the right arm over the ear, and that big diagonal, full, big side body stretch here. Two more breaths. Press down a little more through that right foot to activate that whole side. One more breath. Come all the way back up onto the shins. From here, turn on the shins once again to face the front of your mat. Hands down. Step back to plank pose. Tuck the toes, lift the heels. Hold here a breath. And then you're going to lift the hips up and walk the feet in. And now we're in downward facing dog. All right, so here, take a few breaths in this first downward dog of this class. You can pedal the feet out, maybe bend one knee, straighten the other to get a nice stretch in the calves and Achilles tendon. If your hamstrings feel tight, then consider bending the knees a lot more or a little more. But do drop the chest down towards the ground as you begin to reach the hips up towards the sky. Spread evenly through the fingers. Take one more breath here. All right, now you're going to step the feet in close. You're going to cross the right foot over the left. So you want the feet in really close so the pinky toes touch, and you're kind of squeezing maybe the inner ankles, definitely inner knees and inner thighs together. And we're just going to lift up a little higher on the balls of the feet and then stretch the heels down. And two more on this side. Rise up. And then exhale, stretch down. And one more time, lift up a little higher. Exhale, lower, uncross the feet, but keep them in close as we come right into side two. Cross the left foot over right. You want them in really close, so you bend the knees more if you need to. And then again, 3 times, rise and exhale, lower. As you inhale, lift and exhale, release. And one more. Rise up onto the toes, almost the very tips of the toes. Stretch the heels down, uncross the feet, and now you're going to bring the feet wider than hips distance, not quite as wide as your mat, but maybe almost as wide as the mat, but certainly wider than hips distance. From here, You're going to float the right foot up, keep it flexed, and all we're going to do is move that foot out to the side laterally. So the foot is off the mat, it's flexed, and it's hovering above the mat, but the chest and the hip points stay facing down. One more breath, drop the foot down, right foot down. Repeat that with the left. First, float the foot up, keep it flexed, and then just move it out to the side a little. Not too far. One more breath, step it back in, and bring the feet back in to approximately hips distance. So you can go a little wider, but probably not as wide as we just did. From here, we're going to roll forward to high plank. You're going to float just the right toes up and hold your breath in this three-legged plank pose. Lower the right foot down, repeat with the left. Float it up, keep the foot flexed, toes pointing down. Drop the foot down, and from here, you're going to lower yourself all the way down to the mat. So either drop onto the knees and slide all the way into the belly, or if you have the upper body strength, you can lower down through the top of a push-up. Drop the forehead to the mat. The legs are long, the tops of the feet are pressing into the mat. Step the hands back by the outer ribs and bend the elbows. And before we lift the head and shoulders, kind of hug the outer ribs in with the forearms. From here, lift the head and shoulders into a low cobra and give the glutes a nice little squeeze. And then exhale, drop the forehead down. And we're going to keep going like that. Inhale, lift up, squeeze. Exhale, lower. Keep going. And this pattern, these rolling cobras, what we call them, a few more rounds. So you can stay pretty low every time you lift up, still warming up the back here. Or you can start to reach up a little higher if you feel ready. Take two more of these, roll up, exhale, drop down, and then one more time, and let's hold this here. 2 breaths, so maybe lift a little higher if you feel ready. One more breath, lower the forehead down, tuck the toes, push yourself up to high plank once again, and then take the hips up, back to downward dog for 2 breaths. So once again, going back to that breath pattern, the very first thing we did in that seated position, breathing in deeply through the nose, and then exhaling the same way. From here, let's bend the knees, look to the top of the mat, and then walk yourself forward. This is a good place to have your block nearby. If forward folds are challenging for you, you're going to bring the palms to the shins first. Gaze forward, flatten the back, kind of stick the butt out a little. And then from here, we're going to come down into a standing forward fold. You can bend the knees quite a bit if the hamstrings are low back or tight. You can have your hands on a block or 2 blocks if you have 2. You sway the hips a little side to side. Feel the spine hang down. This is a nice pose. If your low back is sore, you can come into this and just kind of hold this for a few breaths. Maybe that's good enough to kind of decompress, stretch out the low back. One more breath. All right, from here, bring the hands to the thighs. Keep a little bend of the knees. Keep the chin a little tucked. And you're slowly going to rise all the way up to stand. Take your time, and when you're standing tall, kind of roll the shoulders back a little bit. Ground through the feet. Stand up tall in mountain pose. All right, now we start the sun salutation portion of this class. We'll start out with half sun salutations. Good way to warm up. Progress into sun salutation A's, and then from there into sun salutation B's. And we'll do them all fairly slowly, fairly simple, easy to follow along. From here, starting with 3 rounds of half sun salutations. We circle the arms overhead and join the palms, gaze up towards the sky, and then exhale, dive right back down to your mat. Press the palms to the low shins as you gaze forward, flat back, and then exhale, fold again. Rise tall as you inhale, circle the arms up, join the palms, gaze up towards the sky. With your exhale, release the arms by the sides, roll the shoulders back, stand up tall, and mountain pose. Round 2, inhale, we reach tall. Exhale, we slowly hinge forward at the hips as you come back to that fold. Palms return to press into the shins, shins press into palms as you look forward, and exhale, fold deeply over the legs. Rise up as you inhale, reach tall, lengthen up. And with your exhale, release the arms by the side. Once again, roll the shoulders back, gaze forward, mountain pose. Another half like that, and then we add on. Inhale, Reaching up, lengthening up from the sides of the waist and from the low back, and then exhale, fold. And as you come into these folds, it's great to find to bend the knees. Palms to shins, once again, gaze forward, flat back. Exhale, fold. Rising as we inhale, lengthen up, reach up with your exhale, with the arms by the side, stand tall, gaze forward, mountain pose. So we add on to that now, sun salutation A, 3 rounds, each one will be slightly different. As you inhale, circle the arms up and join the palms again. Exhale, fold back down to the mat. Palms to shins as you gaze forward. Hands down, step to plank, lower onto all fours, hands and knees. Round the spine for cat pose. And then open the chest, broaden across collarbones for cow. Tuck the toes, lift the hips up to downward facing dog. And we're going to take 2 rounds of breath here. Big breath in through the nose. A deep breath out through the nose. One more exactly like that. Breathe in deeply. Exhale fully. And then on your next inhale, bend the knees, look to the top of your mat, step or walk forward. Palms to shins. Once again, gaze forward. Exhale, deep forward fold. Rise tall, inhale, circle the arms up, gaze up towards the thumbs. With your exhale, once again, release the arms by the sides, mountain pose. Round 2, sun salutation A bit different this time. Inhale, reach tall. Exhale, slowly fold low. Half lift, palms to shins, inhale. Hands down, step to high plank. Hold this high plank a breath. Big breath in, deep breath out. And then lift the hips up, back to downward facing dog. So these sun salutations are also known as vinyasas, and this is the vinyasa style of practice of class that we're doing today. So the vinyasas are sun salutations, another name for sun salutations. One more breath here. Bend the knees, look forward, and then walk to the top of the mat. Palms to shins, open the chest forward. Exhale, fold. Rising and reaching and circling the arms up. And again, lower the arms down, roll the shoulders back, tall spine, mountain pose. One more sun salutation A, and then we change it up with sun salutation B, which will be a little bit different, but similar concept. All right, reach the arms overhead yet again. Exhale, dive back down to the ground. Palms to shins, look forward, hands down. All right, we're going to step to plank again. But this time we're going to lower ourselves all the way down to the mat. We're going to rise back up to cobra. We've been here before. Maybe again, keep the back bend a little more mellow, a little lower, or you can lift up a little higher if you feel warmed up. One more breath, lower the forehead down, tuck the toes, lift the hips back up to downward facing dog. Again for 2 rounds of breath. Deep breath in, full breath out. If you get tired in these poses, in these flows, in these sun salutations, you can always take a break, pause the video, take a break, restart it. Or if you don't want to pause it, you can just rest in child's pose or in a seat until you feel ready to come back into the practice. From here, let's bend the knees, look to the top of the mat, step or walk all the way forward. Press the palms to the shins as you gaze out in front of you. And then exhale, fold over the legs. Rise, inhale, arms reach up, we lengthen and reach and grow a little taller. And then exhale, release the arms by the sides, back again to mountain pose. All right, now we start the rounds of sun salutation B. A little bit different, few more parts to it, but again, still pretty slow, mellow, easy. From here, you're going to bend the knees and come into chair pose, a squat. If you can, reach the arms up by the ears. If your shoulders feel really tight here in this pose, you can bend the elbows to cactus arms. You can join the hands at the heart in a prayer position. You could also keep the hands at the hips. So lift up through the spine. So you want to avoid here rounding the spine. You want to try to lift up as you come into that squat. Knees right over toes. One more breath. All right, now you straighten the legs and join the palms. And then exhale, fold back down to the mat. Press the palms to the shins, gaze out in front of you. Hands down, Step to plank. Drop down onto all fours, hands and knees. Round the spine in for cat. Open the chest forward for cow. Tuck the toes, lift the hips, rise up. Downward facing dog. We're going to take the right leg to the sky to three-leg dog. Step it forward. Drop onto the left knee. Come up into a low lunge position. So right knee is bent right over the ankle, spine is tall. To begin, arms reach up to the sky to begin. Now, you're going to lower the hands to the heart in a prayer position. Press the thumbs into the chest. You're going to turn, twist to your right, and lower down into a prayer twist. Maybe left elbow comes to outer right knee. Keep the right hip. Avoid letting it pop out to the side. Kind of bring it into the center. Maybe turn a fraction deeper and look up at the right elbow if you can. One more breath. Turn back forward. Just step that right knee all the way back to tabletop. Take another round here of cat and cow. This is going to be our vinyasa for this round. And then tuck the toes. Let the hips lift back up to downward facing dog. We go right away into the side two. Take the left leg skyward to three-leg dog. Exhale, step it through. Drop onto the right knee. Lift the spine, arms by ears to begin low lunge side two. So begin this low lunge by reaching all 10 fingers to the sky. So that creates lengthened space in the side body. Then we bring the hands to the heart in prayer. We turn to the left and find that low lunge prayer twist here. Watch the neck. Maybe it doesn't feel so good to turn the neck and look at the left shoulder. If that's the case, you just kind of look down at the ground. Watch where that left hip is traveling. One more breath, turn back forward, hands down. Again, just step that left knee back to meet the right in tabletop. Round the spine again for cat. Open the chest forward for cow. Tuck all 10 toes. Lift the hips back up to downward facing dog. Again, 2 breaths. So these flows, these vinyasa flows, these sun salutations, it becomes like a pattern. There's a lot of repetition here, but the body and the breath get familiar with that repetition. Take one more breath in, and then another breath out. And then bend the knees, look forward, step, walk to the top of the mat. Palms press to shins again as you gaze forward, and then exhale, fold. Rise on straight legs as you reach skyward, join the palms. Exhale, release the arms by the sides, back to mountain pose. So that was one round of sun salutation B. We have 2 more, and again, they're each going to be a little bit different. So bend the knees, come back into chair pose. Once again, any arm position that feels good on your shoulders. While you're in chair, you could either have the knees touching, so a narrow chair, or you could separate the feet about hips distance. Sometimes that separation, that little more space, feels a little better on our low back. So pick the position that feels better for you right now. One more breath. All right, once again, straighten the legs. Give those quads a little break. Join the palms overhead. Exhale. Dive back down to the ground. Press the palms to the shins as you gaze forward. Hands down, step to plank pose. Hold your plank, a breath. Big breath in, deep breath out, and then take the hips up to downward facing dog. From here, you're going to take the right leg to the sky, 3-leg dog. We're going to step it forward and rise up all the way this time to a high lunge pose. So the back toes are tucked, back heel lifts, right knee is bent, once again, right over the ankle. We start out again, arms by the ears, tall spine. From here, keep gazing forward. You're going to bend the elbows and take hold of opposite elbows above the head. If you need to lower the bottom form to lightly rest on the crown of the head, that's fine. Otherwise, if you're able, try to reach that forearm up off. That gets a little more length and space in the side body and works our core a little more here to keep us steady. One more breath, release the clasp of the elbows, lean all the way forward, bring the hands to the mat, step the right foot to meet the left and plank, again holding your breath, a full breath in, nice deep breath out, take the hips up and back to downward facing dog. Again, right away, moving right away into side two, take the left leg to the sky to 3-leg dog. As you exhale, we're going to step it through and we're going to rise up and come in again to that high lunge pose. So pause here a moment, arms by ears, gaze forward, pressing a little more into the ball of that right foot to steady us. This time, we're going to bring the hands behind the back and take hold of opposite elbows, maybe a different cross than you did the first round. And here, as we continue to stand up tall, what you're doing is pressing the front form into the low back, almost like that form's acting like a wall. So imagine that you're pressing the back into a wall to help you stand up taller, but it's your forearm and not the wall. One more breath. All right, release the clasp of the forearms. From here, once again, bring the hands down to the ground. Step back to plank. Let's hold here again. One breath. Big breath in. Deep breath out. Let the hips lift back up. Maybe step the feet in closer. Drop the heart down. Lift the hips up. Downward dog. 2 breaths. Again, you get tired. Try before you come into child's pose, which is absolutely fine. You can do that any time. But before you do, see if maybe just turning the focus in a little more to that breath kind of helps you feel a little less tired, a little more focused. Bend the knees, look forward, walk again, top of the mat. Palms to shins, gaze forward, flat back. Exhale, deep forward fold. Rising again as you inhale, circle the arms up, gaze up. Exhale, release the arms by the sides, back to mountain pose. We have one more sun salutation beat. Bend the knees. One more time to chair pose. Once again, take any position with the arms. Traditional is to have them up by the ears, but oftentimes, again, that doesn't feel good on our shoulders or upper back for some reason. See if you can bend just a little deeper into this chair pose, this last one, holding one more breath, and then straighten the legs, join the palms. As you exhale, fold back down to the earth. Palms to shins, gaze forward, step to plank pose, and lower all the way down to the mat once again. Step the hands in by the ribs, lift the heart, cobra pose, squeeze the glutes, hug the outer ribs in. One more breath, lower the forehead down, tuck the toes, lift the hips back up, downward facing dog. Take the right leg to the sky to 3-leg dog. As you exhale, this time we're going to step it through to runner's lunge pose. So the hands stay down. You can use blocks under the hands. Left toes tucked, left heel lifts, left leg is very, very strong and supportive here. Keep the left hand on the mat or block. You're going to take the right arm up to the sky into a twist. Once again, like in that low lunge, watch where that right hip is going. Likes to pop out to the side. Maybe even bring the hand to the hip and guide it more into the center. One more breath. Turn forward, hands down. Step to plank. Again, you're going to lower yourself all the way down to the ground. Rise up to cobra. Continue to stay low. Maybe start to lift a little higher each round. Lower the forehead down, tuck the toes. Push yourself up. Back to downward facing dog. Take the left leg to the sky to 3-leg dog. Exhale, take a big step through. Hands down. Runner's lunge pose. Gaze forward. Engage a little more through that right leg. Keep right hand on the mat or a yoga block. Take the left arm up to the sky, an easy twist. And again, watching that left hip. Make sure it's not, keep it in center. One more breath, turn forward, hands down, step to plank. Again, we're going to lower all the way down the ground. We're going to rise up to cobra. Squeeze the glutes. One more breath, lower the forehead down. Tuck the toes, push yourself up, lift the hips up, back to downward dog, 2 breaths. Deepening the inhale, maybe lengthening the exhale. And then one more like that, inhale deeply. Exhale fully. From here, roll forward, drop to the knees, and come lay on your back. So a little break from all the standing poses, from all the flows. And we're going to do a little bit of core strengthening here. A little bit for our core. So what you're going to do, bring the soles of the feet together and let the knees open. So this is like reclined butterfly pose, a little hip opener. So in addition to the core work, which we'll start in a second, we're also getting the benefit of opening the outer hips and the knees and getting a stretch in the inner thighs. See if you can scoot the butt in a little closer or wiggle the heels back so you can reach out and tap the heels. If you can't, that's fine, but it's good if you can to get a little closer in. All right, all we're gonna do is bring hands behind the head, elbows wide, and we're just gonna keep lifting up and down here. So these are butterfly crunches. Just a little different. Usually with crunches, the feet are ground and knees are bent. So just a little extra position, doing the same work with the core, with the abs. But again, just kind of adding in that little something extra. So in addition to working the core, we're getting that hip opener, knee stretch, etc. Now, continue here a few more rounds. If you don't need the support of the hands behind the head, you could make this just a little more challenging. And as you lift, you can reach the arms, the hands between the inner knees. But if your neck is tight or sore, by all means, keep the hands behind. Two more and one more. All right, now lower down. You're going to keep the soles of the feet touching, knees wide, except this time you're going to float the feet up. So they're kind of in mid-air. You're going to bring the hands back behind the head, elbows wide. You're going to lift, and this time we're going to twist side to side. Elbow towards the opposite knee or thigh. Again, if the elbow doesn't reach the knee or thigh, you are still getting good work in those oblique muscles, the sides of the abs. Just a couple more breaths here. For 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, lower the head and shoulders down. You're going to hug the knees in, wrap the arms around the shins, and rock a little right and rock a little left. So we use the core a lot in yoga class in our daily lives. So incorporating some form of core work into your regular fitness routine is really advised. Lots of good benefits, not just to keep the core strong, but also keeping the low back strong as well. All right, from here, cross one ankle over the other, and you're just going to kind of rock yourself all the way up. You're going to step back to plank pose from here, and let's hold plank 2 breaths this time. A big breath in, deep breath out. One more round like that. Breathe in. Exhale, let it go. And then lift the hips back up. Arrive back in downward facing dog. And let's take 2 breaths here to kind of refocus, reset, get back to that breath work. One more breath. All right, from here, we're going to take the right leg to the sky to 3-leg dog. You're going to step it forward, ground the back foot, and you're going to rise up into warrior 2 pose. So we'll be here a few breaths. So arms to a T at about shoulder height. Right knee again, like with those lunge poses, right over the ankle. Maybe wiggle the back foot back a little or step it in a little closer. It really depends on the length of your legs. Most of us need to take a wider stance. We're going to ground again through the whole foot, especially the outer edge. That grounding is going to incorporate all the muscles in that leg, quad, hamstring, knee, front and back of the knee. Stand up tall, lengthen up through the spine. Look out over the right finger. Steady the gaze. Quiet the thoughts. Continue with that pattern of breath. From here, take the right palm to the sky, and you're going to sweep it up and over the ear into reverse warrior pose, which again is a nice side body stretch. Maybe bend a little deeper into that right knee, if that's available. One more breath. All right, you're going to stay in the side bend. Just going to begin to straighten the right knee and come into reverse triangle pose. So as we straighten that right knee, you still want to make sure there's a little soft micro bend in it. So you never want to lock the knees out in any of these poses. One more breath. All right, come all the way up, straight legs, and you're going to turn to face the side of the mat, and you're going to turn the toes out in a wide leg stance. You're going to bring the hands to the heart, and you're going to bend the knees and come into a pose we call goddess pose. So big stretch for the quads, knees, outer hips. Lift up tall through the spine and give the glutes a nice squeeze. So maybe fix the gaze on a point out in front of you as we'll be holding here about 3 more breaths. 3 more breaths. Lots of good stuff going on here. Quads, knees, hips, glutes. 1 more breath. All right, now bring the arms back out to a T. You're going to pivot into warrior 2 on the second side. So just change. So just replicating what we did on the other side. The left knee is right over the left ankle. Right leg is straight, arms about shoulder height, gazing out over the left fingers. Take 2 more breaths here. Try, if you can, to activate that right leg a little more. Take a little more weight into that leg so that left quad isn't like quivering, shaking, just waiting for the moment to get out of this pose. Take the left palm to the sky now, sweep it up and over the ear, and come in again to that side bend that we call reverse warrior pose. So this reverse warrior pose is nice for opening up that side body, left outer hip, along the outer waist, sides of the ribs out for the shoulders and the arm. All right, remain in the side bend. Just again, softly begin to straighten the left knee without locking it. It's subtle, but it's necessary. 1 more breath. All right, now come up, arms to a T. Turn again to face the side of your mat, but this time you're going to turn the toes slightly inward, slight pigeon toe here. Bring the hands to the hips, squeeze the shoulder blades together, and gaze up towards the ceiling. From here, let's do this slow. We're going to start to fold forward from the hips, hinging forward, flat back. I want you to pause about halfway down, gazing down at the ground in front of you, so the torso is mostly parallel to the ground beneath you. From here, you're going to bring the hands to the mat. You can have blocks under the hands. First, look forward to lengthen the spine, and then as you exhale, we're coming down into a deep, wide leg forward fold. If you can, maybe wiggle the feet a little wider or bring them in a little closer, especially if you feel a lot of tightness behind the knees or the hamstrings, which is really common in this pose. Then you come in a little narrower and you bend the knees more. Having blocks under the hands can be super helpful in this pose. It can help you hold it a little longer, maybe work into going a little deeper. Take 1 more breath, and then from here, begin to bring the hands to the hips once again, ground through the feet, and come all the way up to stand on straight legs. And then from here, you kind of step the feet in together, and then we walk back, return to the top of the mat. Let's take a vinyasa. Inhale, sweep the arms to the sky. Exhale, fold low to the ground. Take a half lift as you inhale. Step to plank pose. Let's drop back down onto all fours, hands and knees, because we haven't been here for a little bit. Round the spine for cat. Open the heart for cow. And then lift the hips back up to downward facing dog. Take a couple of breaths here. Another deep breath in. And a big breath out. All right, from here we're going to roll to plank pose. But you're going to lower down onto elbows, forearms into a forearm or low plank. Interlace the fingers, kind of walk the elbows in a little closer, and press those pinky fingers into the mat for a little more grounding. At the same time, press a little more firmly into the balls of the feet for more grounding. Now, you're going to cross the right ankle over the left, similar to what we did in downward dog earlier. Squeeze the legs together, and just a few times, we're going to kind of rock forward and back. As you rock forward, see if you can reach the chin past the hands, and as you rock back again, press the heels back. 1 more. All right, come to center. Uncross the ankles. Uncross the fingers. Step the left forearm to the center of the mat, and you're going to roll onto the outer edge of the left foot, stack the feet, or stagger them and come into a forearm side plank. So to stagger the feet, you would step the right foot in front of you. So you'd be on the big toe side of the right foot, and on the pinky edge of the back foot, take the right arm to the sky, lift the bottom hip up to the sky. 1 more breath. All right, come back to center onto the forearms, and we'll take a break in between sides by lowering the knees down and coming into Sphinx pose. So you're on elbows, forearms, grounding firmly through those points, lifting up here through the low back. So you don't want to round the spine here. No chin to chest. Broaden across the chest. Lift up through the low back. Try to gently drag the elbows back towards the chest. One more breath. All right, let's set up for side 2. So first, interlace the fingers, tuck the toes, and lift the knees back up to that forearm or low plank. Now, cross the left ankle over the right to kind of zip up the legs, inner ankles, inner knees, inner thighs. And then we're going to rock forward and back. Just a few more rounds. Just a few. 2 more only. 1 more. All right, come to center, uncross the ankles. Release the interlace of the fingers. Press the right palm and forearm center of the mat. Roll outer edge of right foot and come into that forearm side plank. So you can stack the feet like I'm doing. Stagger them like we did on side 1. Lift the right hip up. Left arm to the sky. 1 more breath. All right, come back to your forearm plank. And again, drop the knees down and return to that Sphinx pose. So here, a couple more breaths. If you want to deepen this, because this is a back bend, a gentle back bend, but a back bend nonetheless, you can start to straighten the arms, crawl the fingers forward, press into the pads of the fingers, and lift the chest a little higher. But this gets a little intense on the low back, so if it feels too much, come right back onto elbow forms. 1 more breath. All right, you're going to lower all the way down to the mat. Sweep the arms back by the hips, turn one cheek to the mat, bend the knees, flex the feet, and start to let the feet drift side to side. This is a nice release for the low back. Even if you're not haven't just done a back bend, if your low back is sore or tight, this is a good little pose to do, a little movement to do to release tension and tightness in the low back. 1 more breath. All right, release the legs down, bring the forehead to the mat, step the hands in by the ribs, tuck the toes. Now you're going to lift back up to high plank. Let's hold here. Again, 2 breaths. A big full breath in. Nice deep breath out. And take 1 more like that. Breathe in and out. And then lift the hips up again to downward facing dog. Let's spend 2 breaths here. Still focusing on that breath. So we're done with the kind of standing pose, flow, vinyasa portion of this class. We're going to be dropping back down to the mat for the rest of the practice, the rest of the class. But take 1 more breath here in downward dog. And then from here, you're going to roll forward, drop onto the knees, keep the toes tucked, walk the hands in, and come back up onto the shins. So we're going to do another back bend here, variation. This is camel pose. And we're going to start with what we call a swaying camel, going side to side, and then we'll hold the full pose. So start in the center. So feet, knees rather, are about not quite as wide as hip distance, a little narrow, but you don't want the knees to touch. You want them a little separate. Keep the toes tucked, heels lifted for now. You're going to bring the hands to the heart in a prayer position, and you want a really nice tall spine here. Now, you're going to keep the right hand pressing into the chest. The left arm, you're going to sweep up and over the ear, and as you do, you're going to turn to the side. See if you can tap left fingers to left heel, and then circle it back over the ear and come back to center. Rejoin the hands at the heart. Take it to the right side. Sweep the right arm over the ear. Turn as you do, and tap. If you can, tap the heel and come back to center. And so you kind of sway. Keep going here, side to side, left and right. Kind of alternate sides, just a little sway. And if you can't find the heels, you just go as close as you can. Let's get a couple more each side. So what you also want to try to do here is try as best you can. It's not easy. Try to keep both hip points facing the front of your mat. So you're just kind of doing this twist from the upper body. 1 more time to the right. And then 1 more time, rather, that was the left. And then 1 more to the right. Doesn't matter which side you're on. All right, come to center. Now come into full camel pose or a variation thereof. You're going to bring the hands to the low back to start. So the heels of the palms are pressing into the low back and the fingertips are stretching down. Start with a tall spine and try to have a little gentle squeeze of the shoulder blades together. Now, a little at a time, do this in stages, begin to arch the spine. But keep the gaze forward. Keep looking in front of you. If you can, bend a little deeper or pause anywhere that feels right. Maybe start to turn the gaze, look up towards the ceiling. If your neck feels okay, you can let the head fall back. Last part, if you want, you can keep the hands at the low back, or you can start to stretch the hands down, the fingers down, and find both heels. Again, here, whatever stage you're out of this camel pose, keep the hip points facing forward. One more breath. All right, slowly come all the way back up. Lean forward, bring the hands to the mat, slide the legs long, and come lay all the way on your belly. So kind of, you might need, like I'm doing, to move a little away from the wall, because we're going to do a nice shoulder stretch. So bring the forehead and chest onto the mat, and you want to make sure you have enough space to bring the arms right out from the shoulders. Okay? So ground the palms. You're going to keep the right palm and forearm pressing into the mat for now. You're going to step the left hand in and line it up with the chest, bend the elbow. And then you're going to slowly roll onto that right shoulder side of the head. And we start this here. And for a lot of people, this is already a big shoulder stretch. And it's not advised or necessary to go any deeper. But if you feel like, yeah, this feels good, but I have a little space to take the shoulder stretch a bit more deeply, you can start to float that left leg up. Then you would bend the knee and bring that left foot to the mat, ground the foot. So it's sort of like a half bridge pose. And that is going to get, as you will notice, a bigger stretch in that right shoulder and a little more of a heart opener, a little more of a chest opener. It's going to start to bring a little bit the right side of the chest up towards the sky. If it's too much, come back to legs long and stacked where we began. Otherwise, 2 more breaths, whether you have the legs straight or that left knee bent. 1 more breath here. All right, slowly, if you bent that left knee, straighten it, restack the legs, and then slowly, carefully roll back onto the belly. Straighten the legs long, rest the forehead on the mat, take a pause here before side 2. So this round, we keep the left arm long. We step the right hand in by the chest, bend the elbow, and you press into that right palm and let that help roll you onto that left side of the head, rests on the mat, shoulder, nice shoulder stretch. Once again, this already feels good, great. You don't need to do any more. Otherwise, you maybe want to take it up 1 more step, float the right leg up, bend the knee, lower the foot to the mat, and start to open the left side of the chest a little more to the sky, and take a slightly deeper shoulder stretch on that left side. Couple more breaths. Let's call it 1 more breath. And then again, if you bent the right knee, you're going to straighten it, stack it on top of the left. Slowly roll back onto the belly. This time, step the hands in by the ribs. Gently lift yourself up and come back into a seat. So here is where, next few poses, you could sit if you have it. Again, handy, a nice folded blanket or a very firm cushion. Shouldn't need the block for this next part. Should not need the block. We're going to come back. So we did earlier, a little while ago, was butterfly crunches. So now we're going to come into traditional or seated butterfly pose. Bring the soles of the feet to touch. And again, if you can, kind of scoot the heels in a little closer towards the groin. We sit up tall for this part, and we gently press the elbows against the inner knees to very gently coax the outer hips open. So for some of you, your knees might be up this high, and that's completely fine because this is a big hip opener. If your outer hips are tight, knees, problems with your knees, then it's fine to have them up, and you just kind of work into it. What you could do if you wanted to hold this pose longer to get a little hip opener, if you have 2 yoga blocks, you could take them and say place them under the knees or thighs for a little more support. And that kind of just allows us, first of all, it makes the pose easier, takes a lot of the strain off the joints, but it also allows us to stay in the pose longer and gradually, little by little, ease into it. Let's take 2 more breaths here. Sit up tall, ground through your seat. 1 more breath. All right, bring the hands outside the knees, help the knees to lift. And from here, you're going to slide the legs all the way out to straight. Bring the hands to the mat by the outer hips. Flex the feet, curl the toes back towards the face. Not a real tuck of the chin, but kind of looking down the bridge of your nose, say in the direction of the kneecaps here, and lengthen up through the spine. So this is staff pose, and we often think of this pose as seated mountain pose. So we did a lot of mountain poses, standing on the feet, grounding through the feet, lengthening up through the low back, through the crown of the head. This is exactly the same, except we're in a seated position rather than standing. But you still want to activate the legs as though you were standing on them. Flex the feet, engage those leg muscles as though they were supporting you in a standing pose, and especially lift up through that low back. Nice tall posture here. One more breath. All right, you're going to reach the arms up by the ears, gaze up towards the sky, kind of reach. You can kind of alternate like you're climbing a rope, reach the arms up to invite more space in the side body. And then from here, keep all that, keep the chest open. Begin to come into a forward fold and pause again about halfway down, flat back. And then on your own, begin to come down, folding, drop the hands down. You could actually use your yoga block here. If these forward folds are super challenging for you, you could get the block, say high height or medium height, maybe prop it on your shins and then let the forehead come to rest on there. Otherwise, keep the heart open. So in a seated forward fold, you want to begin the forward fold at the low back. So you think about lengthening the whole spine from the low back all the way out through the neck. Not rounding here, not hunching the shoulders, keeping the chest open, lengthening the spine. If you're able to maintain that opening position, you could start to bow the forehead down towards the knees, but don't at any point round the spine. If the hamstrings feel real tight here, then you would be advised to bend the knees a little, maybe float the back of the knees up off the mat. You could also, if you have a second blanket or like a towel, you could kind of roll that, put a little roll and wedge it under the backs of the knees for some support. Let's take 2 more breaths here. Keep those feet flexed. Don't forget about those legs. One more breath. All right, lift the chest, walk the hands in. And then from here, come lay on your back. So if you finishing poses on our back before we take a little rest at the end. So traditionally, after a full-on roll-rounded yoga class, we take pause at the end of practice for, 1 to 3 minutes, depending on how much time and how long the class is for rest. We'll get there. We have a few more things to do first. So come lay on your back, have your block within reach if you'd like to use it. Feet are hips distance, knees point up. Ground the palms and the forearms and the feet, and you're going to lift the hips up and find bridge pose. So again, block, and again, make this pose more comfortable for you, more supportive. And if you were going to hold it, we're not going to hold it that long. I don't have that much time. It would allow you to stay in the pose longer without straining your muscles and joints. So the props, the blocks in particular, are really, really helpful, especially if you're new to yoga or just learning poses. Don't be afraid to use the blocks as often as you need, as many times as you need, as many poses as you need. All they can only make your practice better and make it so that you can hold poses longer and do more yoga. Take one more breath here in bridge pose. Working the whole body here in bridge, especially the lower body. Everything's getting something here. Outer hips, hip flexors, knees, quads, hamstrings, glutes, etc. One more breath. All right, you're slowly going to lower down. All the way down, lower the spine down, one at a time. This time, walk the feet as wide as the mat and let the knees fall into touch. You can keep the arms by the sides of the hips, or you can gently, lightly rest the hands on the belly. Maybe let the eyes close for a couple breaths. Feeling the shoulder blades, low back, press into the mat. Nice little counter pose, little recovery from the back bend, from the bridge pose. One more breath. All right, from here, I'm going to lift the knees up, walk the feet back into hips distance. You're going to hug the right knee to the chest, and then you're going to cross the right ankle outside the left knee, coming into figure four pose. So you want to flex that right foot. Maybe you take the right hand to the right knee and gently press the knee away. If you want to go a little deeper hip stretch, sometimes at the end of the class, as we wind down, you don't feel like doing that. You want to stay a little more mellow. So stay right here, keep that left foot grounded. But if you want to just take it a little notch up, you would float the left foot up, thread the arms between the legs. So you're kind of holding on either the back of the left thigh, or if you can, reach the hands and hold on into the front of that left shin and then lower the head and shoulders down. So we call this thread the needle variation. So the left arm is reaching around the outer left thigh, and the right arm is kind of reaching in between the knees. So we call it thread the needle. So holding on again, either behind the thigh or the front of the shin, wherever you can reach, but don't strain to do either one. One more breath. All right, you're slowly going to lower the left foot down. If you're doing thread the needle, unwind, release the arms, lower the right foot to the mat. Let's hug the left knee in, cross left ankle, outside right knee, entering figure four pose. And once again, stay right here. Good place to be towards the end of the class as we begin to slow down, wind down, cool off. Maybe a gentle press of the left knee away. But if you want it, just, for a few breaths, come into that thread the needle. Float the right foot up, reach the arms between the legs, hold on to something, lower the head and shoulders down, and take a few breaths here in either the starting point of figure four or thread the needle. Just a slightly deeper hip opener. Just feels a little more. You feel a little more in that left outer hip this way. One more breath. All right, let go of everything. Release the feet down. You're going to hug the right knee into the chest. And as you do, slide the left leg to straight. From here, we're going to take this into a twist. We're going to twist over to the left side. You're going to ground the shoulder blades, either arms straight or elbows bent or some degree in between, and then begin to turn left side of the chest over to the right. Watch the neck here. The neck feels tight. You don't have to look over the right shoulder. You can look up towards the ceiling. Let's take 3 more breaths here. So twists, really good, especially beginning and end of practice, to warm up, loosen the spine, keep it mobile, flexible. Also opens the chest so we can breathe a little more fully, releases tension. One more breath, slowly roll onto the back. Carefully slide the right leg just straight, give the left knee a hug in, keep it bent, keep it hugged in, slowly twist, roll to your right side. Ground the shoulder blades and turn to your left for 3 easy, slow breaths. So the breath now is natural. You don't have to worry about counting the breath, matching the breath. Just let it evolve naturally without thinking about it. Softer, easier here. One more breath. All right, come to center. Roll onto the back. One more time. Let's just give the knees a hug in. Wrap the arms around the shin. Rock a little right and left. And then let go of the legs. You're slowly going to slide them to straight. Walk the feet a little wider. Let the toes just gently turn out. But let the legs be soft. So a lot of the poses we were doing, the legs were engaged. Muscles were engaged. Feet were flexed. Now you do the opposite. Let everything be really soft. Let all the muscles, joints, tendons just kind of begin to melt, soften. Release the arms by the sides of the body. Maybe walk them a little further away. So we open up more space in the chest. Close the eyes. And let's take a couple minutes here of a nice, easy rest. You can always stay longer if that feels good. I will call your attention back when about 2 minutes are up, but you're always welcome to stay in this longer if it feels good. Slightly deeper breath in and slightly fuller breath out. And take a few more easy breaths like that on your own. Starting to invite a little movement into the body. Maybe kind of gently wiggle the fingers and toes or turn the ankles, the wrists side to side. Maybe even gently turn the head side to side. If you're waking up from a really good deep sleep, a nice long nap. And then bend the knees, step the feet in close. You're going to roll to one side. Maybe pillow the side of the head on the upper arm. And take a moment there as we come out of this rest that we call corpse pose or shavasana in yoga terms, easily and slowly. And then gently push yourself up. Come back to where we started in an easy cross-leg position. Let the eyes close. Just gently rest the palms or forearms on the knees or thighs for a moment. Keep everything really soft. Take just a couple more breaths here. So coming out of that deep rest a little at a time, which lets us kind of maintain. Now the body is nice and rested. We feel refreshed, restored. And the goal is to keep that feeling of restoration, relaxation as long as possible. And here, open the eyes. And that finishes up this class, this yoga flow class. Again, it's kind of a well-rounded practice, working on a little bit of everything. And mostly the purpose is just to be a little more energized, to flow and connect the breath, really learning, again, those sun salutations, just repeating them. They get a little repetitious. We didn't do as many as some classes. But they do get a little boring, a little monotonous, but they really work and they really just kind of keep the whole body warm. And really, the purpose again is to just really train the body and the breath to synchronize and link up so that the body and the breath kind of work together to keep you in the practice longer. And again, so you don't get as tired. So I hope you enjoyed and thanks for joining me and see you at another class very soon. Thanks so much.